His name was Aaron Joel Mitchell, the beloved son of Donald and Johnny Mitchell. He was married. He grew up in McAllister, Oklahoma, but had been living in Switzerland at the time of his death. His mother recounts he was 41, but they are always your baby. He was loving and a nice person. Joel liked hiking and outdoors, running. He worked in construction and had a younger brother. His parents last saw him on August 1st, 2017, before he went to a solar eclipse festival in Oregon. And then, toward the end of the month and into September, Joel was the man identified as the one that ran into the flames of the blazing Burning Man festival effigy. There are sadly graphic pictures of that fatal act, for which I will not show, but rather share the beautiful memories of a person that apparently was greatly troubled and felt had nowhere to turn. How many Joels are out there feeling the same way? Because of the lack of knowledge of Yahweh and the spiritual battle we face, there is a great void in knowing the spiritual weapons needed to achieve victory, the full armor of Yahweh. This video is dedicated in Joel's memory in hopes that hopelessness, the ultimate lie of Satan, can be consumed by the hope and light of Yahweh. Our deepest condolences go out to Donald and Johnny Mitchell, to his wife, to his younger brother, and to his friends and family members. On August 30th, 2017, during my last video, I shared how our decisions determine our destiny. We discussed the darkness and the lostness, if you will, behind this annual Burning Man festival that was at the time midway into the event as it ran from August 26th through September 3rd. We discussed that we could write the ending of our life story based on our decision to receive Yahushua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, as our Lord and Savior, or not. We discussed that our decisions determine our destiny, and that one decision can determine whether we spend eternity in heaven or hell. We had discussed that the 2017 theme for the Burning Man Festival was radical ritual. Sadly, on September 2nd, 2017, at the time they burned their wooden man effigy, a man broke through 2 layers of security and ran into the flames. This man we now know was Aaron Joel Mitchell, age 41. He apparently made a choice, willingly or unwillingly, that determined his demise. Was that decision driven by demonic possession or oppression that tormented him? Absolutely. How do we know? How can we say that? Because our enemy, Satan, comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And Yahweh has come to give us life, abundant life. Does that mean he went to hell? Not necessarily. From Joel's name, we ponder if his parents focused on name choices that had strong biblical meanings, or were they simply family names? Did Aaron know the meanings behind his name? Did he know with each pronunciation of his name, Yahweh was glorified? Did he know that Yahweh was Elohim as his name declared, or was he deceived by Satan into believing one of his lies? Interestingly, his name means light bringer. That's what Aaron means. Joel means Yahweh is Elohim. His last name, Mitchell, means gift from Elohim. We read in Mark 9, verse 21 through 29 of a similar case. And he asked his father, that's Yahusha was asking the father. And he asked his father, how long has he been like this? They were talking about the man's son. And he said, from childhood. And often he has thrown him both into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if it is at all possible for you, have compassion on us and help us. And Yahweh said to him, if you are able to believe, all is possible to him who believes. And immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears, I believe, Master, help my unbelief. And when Yahweh saw that a crowd came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to him, you deaf and dumb spirit, I order you, come out of him and never again enter into him. And crying out and convulsing him much, it came out of him. And he became as one dead, so that many said that he was dead. But Yahusha, taking him by the hand, lifted him up, and he arose. And when he came into a house, his taught ones asked him separately, why were we unable to cast him out? And he said to them, it is impossible for this kind to come out except through prayer and fasting. You see, this wasn't a physical ailment. I imagine that if the father took his son to a physician of the day, they may have treated it as such. Much like today, people may be going in for treatment of physical symptoms that have nothing to do with a physical ailment. You see, this wasn't a physical ailment. It was a physical manifestation, no doubt, but it was a manifestation of a spiritual battle. Once the unclean spirit was cast out by Yahusha, the young man was restored. Yahusha then goes on to teach others why they failed in their attempts to cast out the unclean spirit. And again, one wonders if Joel Mitchell didn't try to seek help. If he did whomever treat his symptoms only, or did they think about there being a deeper core issue? You know, many today may even be hearing voices, and they're afraid to share that with anyone because they don't want to be labeled insane. They don't necessarily want to be placed on medications just to sedate or silence the voices somewhat. They want someone to understand them, and that means we have to be educated. So if a Joel comes to us, we can help. We have to have a teachable spirit. So Yahusha, when he talks to us and wants to teach us and prepare us for this day and age, and we are in that day and age, that we need to know spiritual warfare like never before. So we need to educate ourselves. We need to be there for this younger generation especially, that have been exposed to several satanic realms and avenues to fall into the very jaws of the dragon. We also read of another similar case in 1 Kings 16 that I'd like to share. So Zimri destroyed the entire house of Bahasha according to the word of Yahweh, which he spoke against Bahasha by Jehu the prophet. For all the sins of Bahasha and the sins of Elah, his son, by which they had sinned and by which they had made Israel sin, is in provoking Yahweh Elohim of Israel with their worthlessnesses. And the rest of the acts of Elah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So at this point in time, they were the sovereigns of Israel. In the 27th year of Asa, which was the king of Judah, Zimri reigned 7 days in Tirzah, and the people were encamped against Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines. And the people who were encamped heard it said, Zimri has conspired and also smote the sovereign. So all Israel set up Omri, the commander of the army, to reign over Israel that day in the camp. And Omri went up, and all Israel with him from Gibbethon, and they besieged Tirzah. And it came to be, when Zimri saw that the city was captured, that he went into a high place of the sovereign's house, and burned the sovereign's house down upon himself with fire, and died, because of the sins which he had sinned in doing evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and walking in the ways of Jeroboam, and his sin which he had committed to make Israel sin. So Zimri, instead of turning and repenting and crying out to Yahweh, he let Satan and his inner voice condemn him, that his sin was so great he could not be forgiven, and so he chose to burn the sovereign's house down around him. He felt he was in a hopeless situation. Let me share, as long as you have breath, and we know that Yahweh reigns, there is hope through his son Yahusha, Jesus. Yahusha, Jesus, said, I am the good shepherd, and I know my own, and my own know me. See, we discussed last video. He's living. That's why you can pray to him, call out to him, call out for help with a sincere heart, and he will answer. He lives. My sheep hear my voice. That's the voice we should be tuned into. And I know them, and they follow me. In this world, you can follow a lot of people and a lot of organizations, but the wise one follows Yahweh. In 1 Peter 5:8, we've shared this verse several times, but it's worth repeating. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. So we should always stand in Yahweh, because the King is coming. He came first as a baby. He returns as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Knowing his voice is critical so that we can stay tuned into Radio Yahweh. Out of all the voices that are vying for your attention through radio, television, movies, schools, out of all those voices, you must listen, you must practice and tune in to that still, small voice of Yahweh. And listen to him, and listen to him only. So we talked in the last video some strategies of the enemy, and that we are viewed by the army of darkness as his pawns and prize. We have seen recently not only military crises, but also weather crises, natural and man-made. These crises increase these huge budgets and create a bigger government and a deeper state. But they also realized they could achieve the same thing through social, civil crises. Those things also could increase the budget and increase the government size. And if they pushed immorality, then the immorality would feed further social civil crises, breaking down the family, and so forth. So the push of the Jezebel and Delilah spirits come into play, because those spirits are behind the immorality, behind most entertainment industries. So crises and chaos, those are Satan's middle name, if you will, and it's easily recognized, and he never lets a crisis go to waste. He always tries to capitalize on it. That's his technique. Yahushua said believers would do greater things in John 14:12. He said, "Truly, truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will also do the works that I am doing. He will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask me anything in my name, I will do it." So by him returning to his Father and providing us the comforter of the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, living in us and through each individual that believes in Yahushua HaMashiach and repents of their lifestyle and turns to him and leads a Christ-directed life, then his Holy Spirit can work through each one of his children. And so we're in multiple places and we can reach multiple people. So wouldn't it stand to reason that Satan would imitate, duplicate, and consolidate characteristics of his demonic strongmen? What do I mean by that? Well, even though demonic spirits work from within and without, or they find fleshly hosts, Satan knows by grouping these individuals together and forming industries and networks of evil entities such as false churches, pornography, New Age religions, flamboyant festivals for young adults like Tomorrowland or Burning Man, or Disney World for raising up children in the way Satan wants them to go. In these types of ways, Satan can maximize destruction. Satan is not fighting churches. He is joining them. He does more harm by sowing tares than by pulling up wheat. He accomplishes more by imitation than by outright opposition. So with that in mind, while we look at the characteristics of the Delilah spirit, I believe we should view each characteristic on a larger scale. Yes, the Delilah spirit affects individuals, but organizing them together creates greater things, if you will, of destruction, just like Yahweh brings his children together to be united in greater things for him. Satan is a copycat and lacks originality. He has three avenues he has used since the fall in Genesis: the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and pride of life. All three of those are right up the Jezebel and Delilah alley. Greater things by Satan. How? Through deception, illusions, and flat-out mockery. He has weaved a web. We look at T.D. Jakes and Oprah, and these are just examples. I mean, the list is almost sadly endless. But the promotion of false gods. What does good have to do with evil? There should not be any connection there. So what's up with T.D. Jakes there? Oh, he used to preach some awesome sermons. He used to preach right from Yahweh's word. What happened? You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, Shame on me. So many of the pastors that appeared to have been on fire for Yahweh have turned, and now we see their fruit. Their fruit, just like this picture shows, is right before our very eyes. So Satan is pushing false gods. He got the masses to believe that this was a true man of Yahweh. And if he repents and turns, then maybe he can turn that around once again. That's between him and Yahweh. I'm not going there. And then the promotion of pornography and lewdness is everywhere. And it's very sad that all age groups are exposed. Then, of course, the attack on the children. Hollywood films teach that there are good witches and bad witches. And many adults believe the same thing. Really? No, they're all bad. But this concept is preposterous. All witches are wicked because they use chants, spells, and magic. It's time to ditch the witch. So we have child corruption and evil being pumped through Disney movies and cartoons. Oh, and let's not forget the all-seeing eye here. And this is behind the mask of Mickey Mouse. Talk about a wolf in sheep's clothing. There are mice in sheep's clothing as well. So they're starting the very young with exposure to the all-seeing eye, satanic eye. And where does that lead? Well, these little children grow up and they see the glamour and the flamboyance and the lights and the music and the energy, if you will. And, oh, they remember the all-seeing eye, and it's called Tomorrowland. Oh, just the fairyland thoughts are reminisced from the times when they were children. And so the young adults are ensnared by the seduction of this Jezebel and Delilah spirit. For make no mistake, everything you see on this screen is seduction. Everything you see on this screen is spurred by the Delilah and the Jezebel spirit. We get the hive mind entertainment. Can't you see all those football stadiums being filled? And don't forget, they have most of the time several demonic symbols, and they have satanic ritual halftimes. And they draw the masses like sheep to the slaughter. And it's past time for us to wake up and not pump our money into satanic entities. It's time to come out of the world. If you call yourself a child of the Most High Yahweh, the Most High God, it's time for you to come out of the world and take a clear stand for who you worship. We also see the younger generation being exposed to New Age religions. And that's just a new term for the old practice of mediums and demonic, ushering in demonic spirits. Nothing new under the sun. And then we have Hillsong. Oh yes, Hillsong. Another example of someone that at first appeared to be the real McCoy, but proved to be false. So again, did these individuals know what they were doing from the very beginning? Was their goal always to usher in a one-world religion? You have to wonder. The hive mind control of the masses to entice innocent sheep and to lure the masses, and it's working very well, sadly it's working very well, only to be later revealed as wolves in sheep's clothing. And remember, Jezebel's and Delilah's spirits are chameleons. They constantly change, constantly. So they're very deceiving. And that's why sometimes they trick us at first. But if we compare their fruit to His Word, we will see what they really are. In addition, greater things by Satan. How is he going to do that? Through the corruption of innocence to be used as satanic pawns. Just look at these faces. I'm sure when they got into the business, they just simply had a young person's dream of being a star, using their talents. And you know, we should pray for each one of these individuals because they are just in the jaws of the dragon and have been deceived. And it's just extremely sad because many of our children have watched them as they grew up and grew up with them. And parents have been deceived thinking, oh, well, this is a role model. They're living a good life as far as the freshness and innocence of the young children of the age. But as they grow up, then they totally change. They become chameleons. And then your children are left following these individuals for whom they should not follow. Mind-controlled individuals used at first to be displayed as innocent sheep. I mean, they all look innocent, don't they? To lure the masses, only to be later revealed as wolves in sheep's clothing. Again, as I shared, Jezebel and Delilah, chameleons. Satan is greatly handicapped. He prefers to use host bodies to carry out his evil deeds. Let's briefly discuss just 2 ways he might accomplish this. Let's just look at cloning and microchips. Both affect DNA and produce an end product not of Yahweh. Microchip, keep in mind, is really just a modern term of pinning used by Satanists. Pinning is inserting a metal or wooden pin into an individual that is programmed. The pin or the wooden pin is programmed with a curse. And so they put that into an individual. So nowadays we see people getting microchipped to enter their workplace and that sort of thing. When and if the microchip is ever used as the mark of the beast, know that it is programmable and it would hold the potential to affect and change your very DNA. We live in the age of technology, and these things are very possible. So let's just look at the process of cloning. We have a human egg donor. Here's the egg. They remove the nucleus, the center part. They fuse cell and enucleated egg with electricity. They remove a cell from the person to be cloned, and the egg is fused with the cell. An embryo is developed. It's implanted into a surrogate mother, and a surrogate mother would have a cloned baby. Now, has this taken place in humans? We haven't heard of it yet, but do you think it's taken place in humans? I'll let you decide on that one. We remember Dolly. The same process was done with Dolly. Remove udder self from white-faced sheep. Remove DNA from unfertilized egg. Fuse the cells. Early embryo with donor DNA. Cloned embryo can go into an embryonic stem cell for therapeutic cloning, or can be implanted into a surrogate for reproductive cloning. And the result is a clone of a white-faced sheep. Dolly. Here, again, remove skin cell from a patient, remove DNA from an unfertilized egg, fuse the cell. You have an early embryo with donor DNA. Cloned embryo, embryonic stem cells for therapeutic cloning, or implant and surrogate and have an infant clone of the patient. So that would be a clone. This is my definition of a human clone, or this is how I would define it, and this is strictly my opinion. A human clone would not be made of Yahweh, but would be a manipulation of Yahweh's creation to form a host body. What the body would host is yet to be determined. It would look and act in many ways like one of his sheep, but make no mistake, there would be a vast difference. Though the external body would resemble a human being, its body, soul, and spirit would not have been knitted together in its mother's womb by Yahweh. It would have been knitted by another source for another purpose. It would probably run the risk of being fully programmable and possessed, for it is not of Yahweh. Would it have free will? Who knows? Just as in the days of Jared and Noah, the Nephilim in Genesis 6 were not of Yahweh, nor Cain for that fact if you believe in the serpent seed. This was why it was so important that Yahusha come from an untainted righteous line to be our Cohen Hagendal of the Melchi-Tzedek order, meaning my king is righteous. Even those of us born since the fall of Adam and Eve must still be born again before we can enter the kingdom of heaven as his priests. We must become a new creation. 2 Corinthians 5:17 tells us, therefore, if anyone is in Yahusha, Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. So at what point exactly is a breathing entity that is clothed in human skin not redeemable? I do not know. Only Yahweh knows. This I do know, however. He regretted he made man in Genesis 6:6 after the fallen angels mated with human women. And he also regretted he made man after the fall of Adam and Eve. In 1 Peter 1:23, being born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible, by the word of Yahweh, which liveth and abideth forever. Unless one is born again, that person cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. No one goes to the Father except through him, the Son, Yahusha HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. In Genesis 3:3, we read, and Yahweh Elohim made coats of skin for the man and his wife and dressed them. And Yahweh Elohim said, see, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. So Yahweh Elohim sent him out of the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which he was taken. And he drove the man out, and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword toward which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. In the Targum of Jonathan ben Uzal, chapter 3, it reads, this is the extra biblical text, And Adam called the name of his wife Hava, or Eve, because she is the mother of all the children of men. And Yahweh made to Adam and to his wife vestures of honor from the skin of the serpent, which he had cast from him, upon the skin of their flesh, instead of that adornment which had been cast away, and he clothed them. So at first, Adam and Eve were clothed in his light. They were not even aware that they were naked. Vestures is defined a covering garment, such as a robe or vestment, clothing, apparel, something that covers like a garment, something like our skin. We see microscopically our human skin looks much like serpent skin. So, in the church setting, many of the times we felt like some kind of deer was skinned, and that's what they were clothed in. But more than likely, our human flesh is what we ended up being clothed in. In Deuteronomy 32:29 through 35, I just wanted to share these verses with you. If they were wise, they would understand this. They would consider their latter end. How would one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight unless their rock had sold them and Yahweh had given them up? For their rock is not like our rock. Even our enemies are judges. Their vine is of the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of serpents and the fierce venom of cobras. Is it not stored up with me, sealed up among my treasures? Vengeance is mine, and repayment at the time their foot slips. For near is the day of their calamity, and the matters prepared are hastening to them. Satan's time and the army of darkness's time is short. So we have already discussed how Jezebel works to deceive. Now we will look at Delilah, how Delilah works to steal, kill, and destroy. We know that Delilah will be the second prevalent spirit in the last days, working toward destroying the body of believers in Yahusha from within. Recognizing its characteristics is extremely important for your spiritual safety. In addition, knowing the characteristics allow you to mount an effective and appropriate spiritual response. As Jezebel, Delilah can be either female or male, and as we discussed, they are chameleons. And as we also discussed, you will know them by their fruit. So most importantly, we need to know Yahweh's word to identify the Jezebels and Delilahs. Delilah is highly skilled in taming people through seduction. So all of those child stars and all of the false religions and that sort of thing, all the things behind them are really a Delilah type seduction spirit. Delilah spirit achieves that with flattery, praise, friendship, or sexual advances. Even the strongest of believers can be beguiled if they do not stay alert in the spirit. So we have to stay alert in Yahweh's word. Delilah is especially after people of prominence and uniqueness, people in the spotlight who are anointed ministers of Yahweh. She or he targets gifted men and women and those who are in effective relationships or marriages. Delilah's assignment is to drain the power and blessing of Yahweh from your life. When this is accomplished, just as was done with Samson long ago, the formerly anointed person is made spiritually weak and ordinary. So a lot of the stars nowadays in Hollywood are greatly deceived and under mind controlled and probably threaten to lose their stardom, if you will. 2. Like Jezebel, Delilah will fool those around her or him by appearing exceedingly Christian. So we've seen several charismatic pastors that before seemed to have been preaching Yahweh's word correctly, only now to get behind the ecumenical movement toward a one-world religion. They fooled many. To keep up the Christian facade, Delilah will be at the worship service every weekend, at every Bible study, and will faithfully attend and participate in every all-night prayer session. Delilah will be punctual and completely involved in many, if not all, spiritual activities, as this is her or his way to get close to the spiritual leaders. Goal is to have their head in her lap or his lap. 3. Delilah's love money. Delilah is the modern-day gold digger, but the spirit of Delilah is far wiser and refined than an average money seeker. With one need or another, Delilah will financially drain the victim. Delilah is immoral. She is filled with ungodly and perverse sensual desires and arts. She or he preys upon anyone who can best be used to weaken the body of believers, whether or not they are married. So, at all these festivals, even at the Burning Man festival, there were about, I believe I heard, 16 to 18% Christians attended that festival. So, my question is, what does a Christian have to do with a pagan festival? So, again, Christians are letting themselves be seduced and mingling with evil where they should not be. 5. Day after day, she will keep relentlessly pursuing and pressuring her victim to leave his or her marriage partner. She or he may seduce the Christian to become sexually involved with him or her, or may work to induce the spiritual target to run away with him or her or commit other sin. Soft persuasion can take place over a period of many months or years until the target listens to his or her deceiving voice. Enduring such long-term pressure should be totally unnecessary, as Christians should discern the spirit quickly and respond to it appropriately rather than enduring its pressure over a long period of time as it strokes the ego. You know, just maybe having friends that are not of the faith keep on asking a person over and over again, oh, come on, let's go to Tomorrowland. Come on, let's go. Each year they're asking them, oh, come on, let's go. Come on, you stayed home last year. Why don't you come with us? So these are Delilah and Jezebel spirits trying to trip that person up walking in his faith or her faith. Delilah is like a jack of all trades. Delilah knows the tricks, navigations, avenues, points, and steps for getting a person's attention. He is a chameleon who purposely takes on the likes and dislikes of her target, will appear to ardently love hiking and backpacking if her target is an avid outdoorsman. Most deceptively, will also appear to love Yahweh and to be deeply concerned with the salvation of souls if the target is truly evangelistic in heart. Whatever it takes to convince the victim that she is his or her soulmate or soul sister, that is what Delilah will appear to be. Delilah will try to get close to people in your life in order to demolish you. She or he will do this by gaining your friends and family members' confidences through politeness and kindness. Then, as time goes by, your loved ones might begin to open up about you and your relationships to her or him. Delilah can play shoulder to cry on and be a great listener. Little by little, a bond will develop, and before you know it, people in your life will join her in helping her pursuit of you, the target. Great anointed men like Samson fell because of her or his guile. 8. Delilah works to wreck homes, marriages, and relationships. And if we can't see that in this day and age, we are blind. I think the success of Christian marriages are like 60% successful, 40% end in divorce, and secular something like 50-50. Delilah is a seductress. The spirit is skilled in luring and taming men and women. The victim finds themselves being drawn to this sort of person without any particular reason and wonder why they are so excited to see him or her. It's important to always put on the full armor of Yahweh that you may stand. So the ones that promote a lot of these festivals or ecumenical festivals, they usually have a very charismatic leader enticing and encouraging other church leaders to send their congregation to the event in support. So this is how Delilah works. Delilah calculates your spiritual strengths and works to counteract them. Delilah is hellishly empowered to find out where you are strong and how to turn the strength into a vulnerability and weakness. The Spirit's assignment is to take your power, terminate your strengths, and imprison you through your weakness. This hellish purpose is carried out, unless defeated by the power of Yahweh, so that you will be spiritually idle and ordinary like the rest of the world. Don't let that happen. Stay in Yahweh's word. Bathe in Yahweh's word. That is the key. And we've stated Delilah is a chameleon just like Jezebel. She or he has vast likable qualities which leave you confused on what you really like about him or her. Like a chameleon, Delilah fits everywhere as a convincing Christian. In fact, if you were to begin to suspect Delilah and suggest that she was at work in a person, others already under this spirit's influence will jump to Delilah's defense, insisting that the Delilah person is the more sincere and committed of Christians one could ever hope to meet. However, those whom she has stung in the past know about her ugly side, but this track record is one she or he carefully covers from view. Often, this is accomplished by uprooting and moving to a new area, leaving behind family and friends. 12. Delilah is very knowledgeable about what men or women want and need emotionally and physically. Delilah knows how to treat the intended victim like a king or queen. The spirit will be willing to do everything that the victim's spouse won't, whether it's emotionally or physically, and she'll do it exceptionally well. 13. Delilah is a master of flattery, knowing the vulnerable areas of the victim and how to minister to them, meeting their emotional needs like none other. The spirit is polite, gentle, and quiet. The spirit will not criticize because she realizes that this causes her target to be defensive. So keep in mind, we do not battle against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, against rulers and spiritual wickedness in high places. This is a spirit. Jezebel and Delilah are strong men spirits, okay? So these types of spirits would need to be dethroned. So rather, the spirit is qualified in the language of praise. Praise is Delilah's native tongue. You may discern this spirit in a person who praises you more than your spouse, even in petty things that do not need praise. The goal of praise is after a relationship with the victim, especially in the victim's marriage partner's shortcomings. Delilah appears to truly care about the victim, but her or his intent is to destroy them completely. Here they are, dripping with honey in your very presence, but The spirit's goal is to destroy the person, the victim, completely. That's how Satan works. He hates believers. He has come to steal, kill, and destroy believers. Delilah is able to make her victim feel more secure within a short space of time through her pretended gentleness. She is trained and gifted in this. Delilah builds relationships with her prey founded on safety, praise, peace, and warmth. But the true motives for presenting this warm and caring manner are to destroy, which is quite the opposite of how she presents. Remember, Delilah is after the favor of Yahweh upon you, your family, your business, your ministry, and your marriage. The goal is to have the victim's favor depart with complete neutralization and bound in shame. Delilah will make you believe that you have some kind of deep connection together and that you were meant to be best friends or soulmates. Be careful. Don't get those soul ties going. Even though this is completely inappropriate and you are already with someone, the person with the spirit will indirectly pressure you daily until you believe it. Delilah never gives up. This spirit is persistent. The person with this spirit will pester you daily with sweet words. Do not think a no will stop them from pursuing you. The only way to win is completely cut off all lines of communication with this hellishly empowered person. But keep in mind, this person is behind everything that you come into contact with. Yes, it's a spirit behind people, but those people drive internet services. They drive movie industries. They drive TV shows. They drive Disney worlds. Satan is the ruler of this realm. Don't forget that. Delilah always looks and smells attractive, sensually appealing to her intended victim. Makeup, beautiful hair, appealing clothes, and shoes is Delilah's physical armor if her target is a man. Likewise, a man with this spirit will be very well groomed in a sexually attractive way, and usually indirectly splashing out his money or financial assets, winning and dining his intended victim. And likewise, again, in events, in Disney World. Look at all the beautiful costumes and all of those things that entice one to come into that realm. And it's a realm of Satan's world. Delilah works to get her victim isolated and alone as often as possible. If the Delilah spirit is working in a woman to seduce a Christian man, she will often design a secluded environment in order to trap a man into compromise. Only a man who flees from her will escape sin and her demonic bondage and destruction. Clearly, we think of Joseph being approached by Potiphar's wife. No matter what face, male or female, or industry or event, these spirits come to us masked. These spirits have the same identifying characteristics. While the Jezebel spirit corrodes Christians and churches from the inside out, the Delilah spirit entangles Christian leaders in ungodly relationships and unholy influences. So we don't have any business being entangled with this worldly events. More and more Christian fellowships are being infiltrated by a Jezebel or a Delilah spirit. At times they can be behind the same face, or the face can be behind a whole church, if you will, a false church. Thus, one person or entity can become a double threat. Recognition is critical for victory. When you are dealing with the ruling spirits of darkness, you are certainly dealing with witchcraft. Yet in the cases of Jezebel and Delilah, this witchcraft is masked, appearing repackaged, and even Christianized. Witchcraft is a term which mentally conjures seances, fortune-telling, spells, curses, potions, and other such magical practices. It isn't something many associate with Christianity. Perhaps this expectation is the main reason that across denominations the fundamental principle of sorcery are taking Christianity by storm. These are the teachings of the spirits of Jezebel and Delilah. Because they have Christianized, the disguised forces of darkness are seeping undetected into the congregations, into the households and hearts of the most sincere and committed of Christians. So Christianized witchcraft repackages the pagan spirit guides as heavenly angels. These heaven-sent angels appear or speak to Christians, especially those in leadership, giving counsel and guidance seemingly from Yahweh himself. We already discussed how Christianized witchcraft has entered into most traditional churches these days. The worship on Sundays, that was the sun goddess day of worship, or the sun god. And also through all the man-made pagan holidays, like Halloween or Harvest Fest. It doesn't matter what you call it. It is pagan. It is satanic. And as I've shared many times, at Christmas, the only Christmas child born on December 25th was Tammuz. And you get into the worship of Saturnalia. It doesn't matter what it means to you. It matters what it means to Yahweh. And again, to discern, if you knew his word, you would know that has no place for you. Just look at Jeremiah 10:2. It despises the Christmas tree and the ornaments. So if you knew his word and you abided by his word, if you knew the real McCoy, you would have rejected Christmas. You would have rejected Easter, the worship of Ishtar, the fertility goddess. And that is how you are able to detect Jezebel and Delilah's spirits. Don't be enticed into these pagan man-made traditions and raise up your children to do the same. Hopefully more and more congregations are waking up to this. So do you think the army of darkness is in the minority? Well, think again. This is a website I came across. It's called The Witch's Voice, presents covens, groups, and orgs or organizations, a worldwide networking resource. Witches of the World, networking the pagan community since 1997. It says to welcome to our covens or groups. The Witch's Voice is proud to present the wonderful covens, groups, and organizations in the locations listed below. Stop, look, and listen. Some famous and not so famous teachers of the craft utilize an incredible natural charisma to get your money or to prey on your spiritual innocence for their own self-serving needs. Don't let their glitter get in your eye. Seriously consider the fact that you could very well be talking cult leader behavior. For an outstanding measure of whether your potential teacher is running a cult, check out the Advanced Bonewits Cult Danger Evaluation Frame by Isaac Bonewits. These age groups, we're looking at adult-run groups, family-run groups, seriously, college-run groups, and teen-run groups, raising up the way Satan wants these children to go and end up in this group. Now, I find it very ironic that they're concerned with cult leaders when this whole focus is occultic. So they've even bought into their own lies, probably, that there is such a thing as a good witch and bad witch. So there are plenty of people that need our help. But we can't help them if we don't know what they're faced with and what they're getting led into. So these are showing several groups. Every state listed represents groups. So since I'm in Louisiana, I'll just pick Louisiana. So you click on the state, if you will, and you see the list. You see the cities, and every major city is represented in that list in Louisiana. And you see the name of their coven, group, or organization. And you see their spiritual path, if you will. Just look over those names for just a minute. Druids, Wicca, Shamanic, Pagan, Brotherhood, Traditional Witchcraft. And then as I scroll down, the same groupings, adult, family, college, and teens are all represented in all of these countries and states. This is from one website. But just when you may begin to feel outnumbered, remember this from 2 Kings 6:15 through 18. And the servant of the man of Elohim rose early and went out and saw an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, "O my master, what do we do?" And he answered, "Do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And Elisha prayed and said, "Yahweh, I pray, open his eyes and let him see." And Yahweh opened the eyes of the young man, and he looked and saw the mountain covered with horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. And when they came down to him, Elisha prayed to Yahweh and said, "Strike this nation with blindness, I pray." And he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. In 1 John 4:4 we read, "You are of Elohim, little children, and have overcome them, because he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world." So how to stand in him, in Yahweh, as overcomers? First, we need to be awake. And secondly, we need to know we do have an enemy. The enemy is defeated. Yahusha has won the war, but we still have battles to be fought while we are in this realm. Now, in my last video, I had shared the gospel message with those that had possibly wanted to receive Yahusha as their Lord and Savior for the first time. And I also shared with them to probably get something like a New King James Bible to study, because it was easy to read. As each believer grows, you would want to probably gravitate to Bibles that have the names restored in them. Another good resource is eSword. And that app allows you to look at several translations all at one time. And it also has the Institute for Scripture Research as one of those options that does have restored names in it. So you can easily get that app. Again, that's called the letter E - sword. And it's I'm so sorry. That is a good app, eSword, but I was also thinking of Bible Hub. That's what I was actually thinking of with the Institute for Scripture Research Scriptures. So I use both eSword, which is excellent, and it's easy to look up the definitions and roots of words. So I do highly recommend that one as well. But Bible Hub is the one that has the multiple translations, and it does have the Institute for Scripture Research, abbreviated as ISR. Now, just keep in mind, in this day and age, we are in a somewhat of a transition period. Many traditional churches, thankfully, are starting to wake up to coming out more from the world and looking at breaking away from these pagan holidays, and also worshiping on the Sabbath instead of on Sundays. It's a process. Pastors have a huge challenge. So I'm not dogging those pastors that are trying to lead their flock out of the blindness, if you will. And there have been several seductions to lure even churches, even organizations, through the Jezebel and Delilah spirit into the 501c3 organizations. So this is a process, and we need to help our brothers and sisters come out of her, my people. So with that in mind, the source that I find most beneficial and most biblically accurate at this point of my journey as a Christian believer comes from Torah to the Tribes website. And their website is right here, TorahToTheTribes.com. And you can go to that website and you can read their statements about themselves, what they've listed. You can watch live Sabbath teachings on Saturdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. They have previously recorded teachings here. They have notes that you can download and print out for study. You can submit prayer requests and so forth. You can join the community and sign up and find other fellowship, like-minded believers in your area. And when you click on teachings, they have topical teachings and several studies that they have done. I highly recommend the Mystery of Melchi-Tzedek, and I also highly recommend watching a 7th edition Torah portion called Yitro, Y-I-T-R-O. It's about an hour and a half long, but it gives you a great summary. I'll try to leave the link in the description section below this video. Hebrews Hebraically is fantastic. This really needs to be watched because without understanding how to rightly divide His Word, most have never understood the book of Hebrews. I know I had not. So that is the source I would recommend. And give yourself time to learn terms and just kind of flow with learning all the terms, and keep on listening and keep on studying His Word. And over time, Yahweh will help you connect all the dots. So I wanted to list several reasons why I'm even suggesting the resources at Torah to the Tribes. They do have a video, 10 Identifying Proofs of the True Gospel, and I actually did a video listing those proofs that you can find on my YouTube channel as well. But they correctly identify Yahusha, Jesus, as our Melchi-Tzedek high priest from the tribe of Judah. They correctly identify Yahweh as a plural Echad, meaning plurified, unified oneness, plural unified oneness, Father, Son, and Ruach HaKodesh. And you can read more in their wording of that About Us section at their website. They rightly divide His Word, knowing the difference between the Book of the Covenant and the Book of the Law. Those terms, as you grow, will make more sense to you. So it takes time to study those things out. But for now, understand that the Book of the Covenant was placed inside the Ark of the Covenant, and the Book of the Law was placed beside the Ark in Deuteronomy 31:26. So first understand that these are clearly two different entities, and the depth of understanding will come with time. They clearly teach the difference between the priesthoods, Melchi-Tzedek and Levitical, and appropriately connect them in the historical biblical timeline. They do not synchronize with the world as do so many mainstream church congregations. They promote keeping the Sabbath and Yahweh's feast and festivals and not man-made holidays. They do not put you under the Book of the Law that was imposed as a tutor until the Messiah came. 8. Be very cautious in being deceived by Hebrew roots and Messianic Judaism that wrongly put ill-informed or new believers back under the curse of the Book of the Law. Again, depth of understanding will come with time. Nothing can replace your own individual learning by reading and studying His Word daily and asking Yahushua to teach you through the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. Ask for discernment as you study these things out. There are some good biblical anointed pastors that give great foundational teachings. Note, some may still be affiliated with the synchronized church that does not observe Yahweh's feast days and Shabbats or Sabbaths. So again, the revelation for us understanding truly how to rightly divide His Word is for our generation. Previous generations, they had their own revelations, and many even in that generation are coming to light of seeing this. But again, this is like a huge ship that needs to be navigated and turned, and many of these pastors are at the helm of these huge ships, and they're trying to guide their sheep with various levels of knowledge. So I'm not dogging anyone. I'm just simply letting you know my viewpoint on how I see things playing out. But there are several good pastors that still have strong biblical foundation. Again, we will not always agree on everything, but when you always ask Yahushua to give you discernment, then you can watch additional teachings, but just keep in mind that for their point in their walk may differ from our understanding and the revelation that Yahweh has revealed to us in our walk. So Chuck Missler has been around forever, and he's great biblical teacher. And all of these guys are on YouTube, so you can look most of them up on YouTube as well. Neil Anderson has some great spiritual warfare teaching. I highly recommend his videos. Carter Conlon with the Times Square Church in New York City has some great teachings, and that church has several pastors. So if you go to that website, if you just want to look up his sermons, you have to be specific. Charles Lawson just tells it like it is. Very powerful teachings on YouTube, and he also has a website. With Torah to the Tribes, you can also join the online Sabbath teachings, like I said earlier, and you can join chats and have fellowship during those teachings and ask questions that you may have. And it's okay if you're a new believer. It's okay. Just say, I'm a new believer. I don't understand such and such. And also stay tuned to my channel, because I plan to bring some more foundational teachings for new believers as helps. And also note, no person or congregation is perfect. So we always need to go to Yahweh's Word and search things out for ourselves. The goal is to stay on the narrow path and not slide into a ditch on either side. So let me explain that. In Isaiah 35:8, it says, "A highway will be there, a roadway, and it will be called the highway of holiness. The unclean will not travel on it, but it will be for him who walks that way, and fools will not wander on it." Matthew 7:14 reads, "But small is the gate and narrow the way that leads to life, and only a few find it." So the goal is to be on this narrow path. And we don't want to fall off into the Judaism ditch that do not believe in Mashiach, Jesus the Christ. And we don't want to fall into the ditch of Messianic Judaism that believes in the Messiah, but they also will put you back under the book of the law because of the lack of rightly dividing his word, much like most of the Hebrew roots organizations, not to lump all connection back to Hebrew roots as bad, but many Hebrew roots do also fall under placing people under the curse of the book of the law. That was only to serve as a tutor until Messiah came. And so they preach Torah, 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 and all of these laws, and they group them all together, which again is not rightly dividing Torah. The other warning on the other side of the ditch is the Christianity ditch basically throws out the Old Testament. Not all Christian churches do that, but several modern day churches do. They just preach grace, 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 and no discipline. So basically throws out the Old Testament, including the Book of the Covenant, which is our marriage ketuvah, and they preach grace, 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 while actually they are under his mercy because they are worshiping on Sundays, the day of sun god worship, and they're following man-made holidays, just to name a couple of things. So again, they also do not rightly divide his word between the Book of the Covenant and the Book of the Law. So as new believers, to understand this difference is a huge benefit, that you don't have to unlearn the lies. We are here between the ditches. That's the goal. We are priests under Yahusha, our Kohen Hagadol of the Melchi-Tzedek order. So be encouraged, because daily more and more congregations are awakening to the truth. But like I said, it's a big ship, and it takes a while to get the ship turned in the right direction. So you may also want to view my video where I walk you through a pictorial timeline of the Melchi-Tzedek message from Genesis to Revelation. So that will kind of give you a full rundown, a bird's eye view somewhat from Genesis to Revelation, to kind of put things in perspective. And over time, you will gain more and more understanding. So I will leave that link in the description section below as well. So with that, I thank you for joining this video presentation and sharing this with me. And let me just close this off in a closing word of prayer. Dear Yahweh, we just thank you for this day, and thank you for this time of sharing and learning together. Yahweh, we just lift up the family of Aaron Joel Mitchell, and we just pray that your hand of comfort be upon them. We pray for an awakening of those that may have never been brought up in any type of Christian environment, and we ask for forgiveness for not being and understanding all that you wanted us to be to those that are lost. Dear Yahweh, just impart wisdom and knowledge so that your people will not perish, and that if someone seeks us out for help, we will know how to help them in any way we can, but especially grow us up in understanding how to fight spiritual warfare with spiritual weapons. And we just praise and honor and glorify you forever and ever. And we just pray that if there's any new believer that is starting to learn about you, we just pray that you will lead him or her on that narrow path. We give you all glory and praise. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, we praise you. Thank you. Amen. Until next time, thanks again for joining me. Have a blessed evening or day. Bye-bye.